He knew the world would not be the same. Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought that one way or another.
Hello everyone! Welcome to another Supervillains Explored Superman edition, and today I will be talking about none other than the ultra-annoying imp from the 5th dimension, Mr. Mxyzptlk. Mxyzptlk is probably one of the most classic and well-known Superman villains ever. Debuting in Superman number 30 in 1944, he was created by the creators of the Man of Steel themselves, Jerry Siegel and Joel Shuster. So he is one of the Man of Steel's oldest and most legendary adversaries. In fact, he's right up there with, if I were to compare him to, say, a certain amount of Batman villains, say maybe Two-Face or the Joker or the Riddler, that's pretty much what Mxyzptlk is to Superman. He's really a staple villain in Superman's rogues gallery. And when Mxyzptlk first appears, he was established as being a little bitty annoying pest from the 5th dimension who's something of a jokester. He was sort of a jester in the 5th dimension, and he learned about the planet Earth and Metropolis and Superman by reading a book, so he decided to travel to the planet Earth in order to have a whole lot of fun with Superman. And Mxyzptlk, in his infinite stupidity, told Superman how to banish him back to the 5th dimension, and the way Superman got across to doing this was that he had to trick Mxyzptlk into saying his name backwards, which was Kiltipsism. And the bulk of most of the stories involving this character were Superman coming up with very inventive ways to cause Mxyzptlk to say or spell his own name backwards. And that was sort of the appeal to this character, was that he was just sort of a comedic character to sort of break the mold of all the criminals and supervillains that Superman had to fight or deal with. And in the early Golden and Silver Age comics, it turns out that there were actually two versions of Mxyzptlk. There was one which was the small purple-suited bald Mxyzptlk that first appeared in the 40s, but the character was redesigned and reinvented in the 50s with an orange outfit and with sort of gray hair on both sides of his head. Now it turns out that the Mxyzptlk with the gray hair was actually the jester and the villain of Superboy, and that was just all very, very much retconned and stuff. Without a doubt, Mxyzptlk's last hurrah in the Golden Age / Silver Age Superman comics was in the Alan Moore written story Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, which a lot of really depressing, horrible things happened to Superman and his universe, but it all turned out to be caused by Mxyzptlk, who had finally had enough of dealing with Superman's BS, and he finally revealed his true form to Superman, in which he remarked, "Did you honestly think that an ultra-powerful godlike imp from the 5th dimension would look like a little bitty midget in an orange outfit with a small little derby hat?" And Superman defeats Mxyzptlk by sending him into the Phantom Zone and ensuring that he stays there by draining all of his powers into his prison with golden kryptonite and That's pretty much the origin of the old school Mxyzptlk, and now we will get into the modern New Earth version of the character. The modern day version of Mxyzptlk was pretty similar and identical to the original version, but there were a few twists added in there. When Mxyzptlk first appears, he adopts the disguise of a human named Ben D. Roy, which is actually an anagram for the Beyonder, who is a Marvel villain who has very similar powers to Mxyzptlk. And of course, Ben D. Roy's appearance looked almost identical to that of the Beyonder. But later on, though, one notable storyline in particular called The Curse of the Crimson Kryptonite. No, wait, it was Crisis of the Crimson Kryptonite, where Mxyzptlk had provided Lex Luthor with a supply of red kryptonite to drain Superman's powers with, and he told Luthor that he could use the red kryptonite as long as Superman didn't know that Mxyzptlk was involved. However, when Clark Kent had hired Starman to impersonate Superman, he asked Luthor where he got the red kryptonite, where of course Luthor revealed who was behind the supplying of the red kryptonite, which was Mxyzptlk, and so Clark sort of found out and discovered that Mxyzptlk was behind it all. But other than that, Mxyzptlk sort of became a very Deadpool / ambush bug type character. He would often break the fourth wall, even to one point where there was a character based on the DC Comics then editor-in-chief Mike Carlin, where he actually appeared in a comic alongside Mxyzptlk. The way that Mixie actually meets with Mike Carlin was this. Mxyzptlk had sort of played Superman a few too many times in the New Earth comics, because there was one time during this one storyline where supposedly there was a dead body of somebody who died who looked identical to Superman, which Superman then blamed on Mxyzptlk. And when Mxyzptlk discovers this, he actually sort of realizes that all the times he's been misusing his powers sort of ends to cause a lot of pain and suffering. So what Mxyzptlk does is that he travels to the funeral. He travels to a bunch of different social events, like he attends the wedding of Lois and Clark, and he travels to some character's funeral. I can't remember who they were, but basically Mixie has really no concept of death or loss, since he's something of a very spoiled character, with a spoon in his mouth, and he has all these godlike powers, which means that his real value of human life and life in general is pretty limited. Everything just appears meaningless to him, and he grows as a character in the fact that he actually wants to learn the value of friendship and sacrifice and all that. So what he does is that in order to learn about death and sacrifice, he actually recreates Superman's battle with Doomsday, where he sort of imagines himself as Superman, and he creates this this extra spiky and grotesque looking monster, which is his version of Doomsday. But a lot like the real Superman, Mxyzptlk's version of Doomsday ends up overpowering and kills him, and that's how he ends up meeting with Mike Carlin. But then after that happens, he becomes restored and he gets resurrected in the New Earth DC Comics dimension. That's really all there is to talk about concerning Mxyzptlk. Now, in my opinion, Mxyzptlk is a very interesting character, and his relationship with Superman is definitely an interesting one, because to me, the two characters couldn't be more different. Superman is the Boy Scout who has really had to earn a lot of his respect and a lot of his trust from other people. He's had to really work and fight his way to the position that he's in. Whereas Mxyzptlk, he's had to do no work. Mxyzptlk was born having godlike powers and being immortal. And he even mentioned himself that he spent 2,000 years of doing absolutely nothing and another 2,000 years of causing mayhem and destruction, which failed to entertain him, and another 1,000 years just being bored and trying to do good things. That's the cool thing about Mxyzptlk, in my opinion, is that he's very much the rich kid who was born with the silver spoon in his mouth, who's never had to work for anything. And that gives him a very good contrast with Superman, in that the only reason why he even plagues and torments Superman is simply for his own personal entertainment. He gets a kick out of constantly annoying Superman, and Superman, being the disciplined and resourceful character that he is, he always succeeds at tricking Mxyzptlk into returning to his home dimension and devoiding him of any possible fun. So that's what I think makes Mxy a very interesting and cool villain. I mean, he's not one of my favorite Superman villains, but I can definitely understand his historical significance. Much like Bizarro, his Mxyzptlk also helped to create a sort of big supervillain archetype, which is the annoying supernatural pest of sorts. So yeah, I like Mxyzptlk, but I prefer other villains to him, but he's still an interesting and cool character in my book. So yeah, only one more Supervillains Explored video before we get to Darkseid, everybody, so stay tuned. It's almost over.